Hey everybody, and welcome back to another weekly upload of Vacuum Exposition. I, of course, am Carl, your host with the most, and we are back with another weekly upload. Now, we do have a couple things to discuss now that we are in the video and close to the time that I have been mentioning for quite some time. Now, if you guys have been watching, you probably already know what I'm going to be mentioning here. But in case you haven't or haven't noticed, maybe now I have warned that I am going to be in Europe. Actually, while you guys are watching this, I will be in Dublin, Ireland. So I am over there doing assorted St. Patrick's Day festivities and having a great time. A vacation is something that I have needed for quite some time, uh, but I have been saving up for this trip for quite some time. Now, that does not mean that you guys will not get a weekly upload. Of course, I will be getting some videos together for you guys. I believe we're like 1 or 2 weeks ahead of when I leave right now. But either way, I will make sure you guys have content while I am gone. On to the next piece of business. For those that have been tuning in recently, I have mentioned my eBay page and that I am selling some machines. Now, currently, I did have to kind of shut down the eBay page because I'm in Europe. But have no fear, for anybody that was interested in any of the machines I have for sale, like the Kirby or the Pencrest, the Decade 80, or that Model 69 convertible, those are all still available. The 70 did sell, so that one is gone, unfortunately, but that leaves some really, really cool machines that are still there. So when I get back, I will, of course, bring them back up, and you guys will have that opportunity to buy them again. So, well, let's get on to our video for today and take a look at another really cool one. All right, everybody. Well, I figured I had to dress the part today. Now, what we're looking at today is actually well, it's kind of a part two of what we were talking about a couple of weeks ago. Now, for those that have been tuning in to the channel, I have not always been a fan of Rainbow or Rexair vacuum cleaners. The concept of dust collection using water just never really sat well with me. I just didn't quite, well, I didn't really think that it was something that worked quite well. And there have been the occasional horror story of these not working very well, but either way, I had my mind changed about a year or so ago. I got a Rainbow D4 Special Edition, or SE, and it actually blew my mind. It was crazy how this thing, or these things, and their capture system actually did pretty well and got quite a bit of dirt and schmutz in it. So I was very, very happy with the result of this. And then, of course, I really wanted to find a D3, which is the model before it, also as the model that was all plastic as their first all plastic machine. Now, that does not mean that this little machine isn't special. Now, what we are looking at here is about a 1961 Rainbow Model D1, not to be confused with the Model D or the Model D2. Now, I know what you're saying, Carl. This has got to be a D2. You are mistaken. Well, normally I would agree with you, but I have had my mind blown on this little machine. Now, I have a D2 in my collection. I love it very much. It came with a lot of really cool attachments, including the optional Poly Champ polisher, which you would take the whole top of the machine off and plop it on the top, and you had yourself a very large floor polisher. But the Model D1 was the predecessor and arguably the transitional model between the Model D and the Model D2. Now, the Model D was quite a bit different than this machine. For those that know these machines, of course, you know what I'm talking about, but the Model D looked a little like this. And as you can see, it is all gold. It is not really a chrome dome, it is a gold dome. And it had the tendency to either say Rainbow or Rexair because they are the same company, but there were different lithographs that were applied to the front of each of these machines. Now I know what you're saying next. You're saying, okay, Carl, we got it. It's a gold top, but chrome. Okay, we see. Yes, but you still had some additional features, mostly in cosmetics, that made this machine quite special. Now, the D2, like I said, looks very similar to this machine, and I'll even show a picture of one right here. So you're probably saying this is just a D2. You have this wrong, Carl. You need to go back and check your resources because your information is false. No, actually, it is correct. The D1, like I said, was the first adaptation of the Chrome Dome. The D2 was the next step up. A lot more people prefer that particular model because the D1, while it looks very similar, does have some aspects of it that carry from both models, actually. Now, the first big one is going to be the little cart it's on. As you can see, it's kind of got these rounded sides. If you noticed on the picture of the D2, it actually has a big plastic caddy that it rides on, big domes on each end of the wheels. Now, this is actually the same type of caddy that would have come on the D1, hence, of course, the styling, but it was gold, while this was a hammer tone, copper tone color, kind of like an orangey brown. So this machine already carried over a lot of the design aspects of the Model D. However, you did still have the adaptation of the next model, the chrome dome, if you will. Now, the D2 also had a power nozzle port. So there was a little power nozzle port kind of right up here above where the hose would have gone in, or I know I've seen it on the side. Just kind of depends on where they were. I don't quite remember it off the top of my head. I'd have to bring that one out of storage, double check. But either way, you had a power nozzle port because at the time, Eureka was actually in partnership with Rainbow and they were making the power nozzles. So you could have gotten a wood grain power nozzle that went with your Rainbow, your Eureka canister, and I believe they made them for other people. Like in Canada, I know Singer was Eureka Products and a few other random ones in there. But or Newtone, they made central vacs for houses that you would put in your garage and then just put a hose into the wall and you had a vacuum anywhere you went. So, but I digress. Eureka did make these power nozzles. Previous to this, they actually had a deal with Whirlpool. Was one of the earlier ones that it was kind of an add-on attachment, but it wasn't until Eureka came in that it started becoming standard with the machine. So what does that make this? This essentially is the Model D. The Model D was the earliest form of this style machine, and it did very well. They sold quite a bit of them. I'm still actually looking for a Model D for my collection, so if anybody out there is watching, please let me know down in the comments because I would love to put this together with my D1, D2, D3, D4, just to have that lineup, you know? But this is a really, really cool little machine. And like I said, these machines have definitely won me over just based on their design as well as them being just kind of a funky little machine. Now, what's the story on this machine? Of course, now we do have a lot of the original parts with this. We have the original attachment caddy. Unfortunately, it's not 100% complete. So it did come with the upholstery tool, the dusting brush, and the only other thing it came with other than this floor tool was the blower cover, which was a magnetized grate that went over the back of it. Normally, you would use that if you had the machine hooked up as a blower, or in the case of the Model D2 that was used for like the polisher, you'd put that over your suction end, create the cyclone to spin everything on the polisher. Now, this machine, like I said, it's not complete, but it does have an original hose, and of course, all the original attachments, or as many as I can get. Now, it looks like it did have a replacement basin put on it because this is actually kind of a darker color, which would have matched the later Model D2, which came out in dark brown that would later match the Model D3. So I'm guessing that was replaced at some point, but that really doesn't affect its usability or anything like that. The biggest and most glaring difference in this machine, well, is the extension wands. Now, unfortunately, when this was found, it just had some random extension wands as well as the floor tool kind of hooked onto it. So it wasn't really together like it is right now. I actually had to find a different one so it would mate up with the end of the hose so we could use it like that. But it is a bit tall. I won't lie to you guys. I am missing what seems to be one curved ended extension one, but again, doesn't really affect the usability of the machine. I don't really mind it. But it does look really nice all put together. And the original copper colored hose does tend to green over time, which is kind of interesting wear wise. Maybe there's a way to get the greening off of it. I don't know yet. I haven't experimented with that. Um, Now, how I got this machine. So, my good friend Mitchell Armstrong has a wonderful relationship with a vacuum cleaner shop up in Everett, Washington. They recently just changed hands with the old owners retiring and the new owners taking over, by which he has maintained a relationship with them. They had this as well as that D3 we had in a couple videos ago in their showroom. The D3, of course, was for sale, and this one was for sale, but being as it was so old, they actually ended up letting him have it. So it, of course, came back and he let me have it as well. So it has had a quite the past, but it is now in a retirement era with me. So it is going to be very fun to get this thing and, well, do a little bit of carpet cleaning today. So let's get to that and see how this little D1 does on the floor. All right, everybody. Well, we have the little D1 all plugged in and its dust collection bin filled with water. So we are ready to do some water collection vacuuming. So let's get to it. Well, everybody, there you have it. The little D1 did quite a good job. It actually got pretty down deep. Just kind of further proving my point to myself that these do a pretty good job, even with their water capture system that I previously wasn't a big fan of. But, you know, it's pretty interesting. And the carpet floor tool, well, I'm not super knowledgeable on it or the features of it. It's got some dials on there. Haven't tried what those do, but very, very cool little machine all the same. Of course, it is one that I will be holding on to just to kind of go, you know, when you get them all together on a line, on a shelf, they look kind of like trophies. So, you know, food for thought if you want one of these little things. So, but anywho, I hope you all enjoyed our little run demo for today. I certainly did. So, well, let's continue on from here. Well, everybody, thank you again for joining us for another episode of Vacuum Exposition. This little rainbow is quite the interesting machine. Stylistically, it really sets itself apart and tends to look like a Star Wars droid with R2D2-like features. Now, it is, of course, a rainbow, and stylistically, they have the little dots on the top that are in the colors of the rainbow, which do definitely add to that little aspect, kind of throws back to the name. So style-wise, this thing was pretty well outfitted. Now, I know a lot of people will think this is a D2, and probably a lot of you probably still think it is a D2, but that's okay. This is so similar to a D2 that that's all good. it makes sense why you would confuse it. But it is still a really cool little machine. I'm so glad that my good friend Mitchell was able to save this because it really was a fun machine to get out. And I have a D2, so I really didn't think very much of it until I looked at the model number. So upon further inspection, I am actually super happy that I have this, um, just because transitional models, well, they're so interesting. And with this being in the early 60s that went all the way into the 70s, you would have seen probably more of these than the D2 during that time frame. So um, with the D2's success, it kind of makes sense that you would confuse either one of them. But it is a really fun little machine. It is going to display really well. Of course, these chrome domes always look great. They just glisten in the light. So, but anyways, well, you all have a wonderful rest of your weekend as well as a fantastic rest of your Sunday. I am going to get back to my trip and get back to relaxing with the wife. And so that way I come back well rested and ready to give you guys a lot more content when I am back in the States. Anywho, thank you all for joining us once again today. And you guys all have a great rest of your weekend as well as a fantastic next week. And we will catch you in the next one. Have a great rest of your day, y'all.